I got a question for you. How come my book has sold over 250,000 copies? My YouTube videos have hit over 20 million views. How come The Game, written by Neil Strauss, has sold millions and millions of copies? Why is there such a demand for pick-up artists and dating coaches for men and attraction experts for men? It's because men don't know how to attract women. Most of them don't anyhow. I'm talking about a whopping 95% here. 95% men out there do not know how to attract women. Now, of course, they end up, a lot of them, getting married and having girlfriends. But if you ask them how they did it, they won't actually know how it came about. So this is why a subculture, essentially that's what the pickup community was, it was a subculture, has become such a huge industry because men want to know how to attract either an abundance of women or a particular type of woman. Now most men, when they find a girlfriend or they sleep with a woman and then you ask them how they did it, they'll just say to you, well, the timing was right. She was in the mood, I was in the mood. We clicked, we got on, it was chemistry. And that's very nice. However, it's quite difficult to copy and paste what happened. Men will say that they can't attract women for many reasons, and I have heard them all. Some of the excuses: they're not rich enough. That's a big one. So a lot of men, they work even harder at their job. They're not successful enough. Again, you'll find men working very, very hard at their job, and ultimately it is to get a certain type of woman, a high-level woman. A lot of men will say it's because they're not tall enough. A lot of men say they're not black enough, not white enough, not ripped enough. A lot of men will say that they're not funny enough, not intelligent enough, not worldly enough. But the truth is that none of these make a difference. Now, if you want to go get ripped, if you want to become successful, if you want to become more worldly and start traveling, that's amazing assets to have, assets to add to your bank. However, you can't rely on them to attract women. And I have proof of this. I have had men who have come to my boot camps, my 7-day courses, who have been extremely rich, extremely powerful. I've had some men who've been extremely good looking, in really, really good physical condition. The reason why men can't attract women, and this is the truth, is because they have no game plan. And that's what we're going to look at in this DVD. They have no game plan, no strategy, no structure. They have no roadmap. And they go into an interaction and they freestyle it. They talk to the girl, they see what happens, might have a couple of drinks. You know what they say afterwards when they do sleep with her? I got lucky. A man coined that phrase. You'll never hear a woman say it. You'll never hear a woman say, I got lucky. And the reason is because women are much more strategic when it comes to seduction. Now, I find this very interesting. Men are usually very goal-orientated. When they have a goal, they have this kind of tunnel vision mentality, more so than women. Think about it. If you want to do well at work, you want to go up the career ladder, what are you going to do? You're going to walk into work and say, well, I just hope that my boss happens to be nice. I hope I do well. I hope he sees my effort. No, you're going to have a plan. You're going to have some sort of a game plan, some sort of roadmap to get you to your goal. How about if you wanted to get ripped? I know a lot of guys who do want to get ripped. And guess what? They don't walk into the gym and say, I'll do a couple of push-ups, I'll see what happens, I'll see how I feel next day, maybe I won't eat a lot that day, maybe I'll change my diet, let's just kind of see what happens. No, a guy who's got a fantastic body, or a guy who wants a fantastic body, he'll have this timetable that he is fanatical about, and I have seen it. I have seen it. They've got times when they have to do certain weights, and they have a rest period, and then they change their whole diet, and they become like very, very fanatical about keeping this because it's a very clear roadmap to their goal. And it does work. It works more than the guy who just walks into a gym and says, hey, I'm just going to lift a few weights and see where it gets me. So I find it very interesting because men are like this. As I said, they're very goal-orientated, very goal-focused. But when it comes to talking to a woman, they just want to get lucky. They have no strategy. They don't think, they don't apply the same methods that they do to other areas of their lives. And that's why they have no idea how to attract women. That's why they sit there with their girlfriend and they might try and romanticize how they met and how it all came to be. But the truth is, they have no idea. So just say it was chemistry, it was meant to be, we clicked. However, what if you want to attract different women every night or every weekend? What if you split up with your girlfriend and you want to go out there and meet someone new? What are you going to do? You're going to wait to get lucky? This is why I have created the 5-phase format. Now, I've been sharing this 5-phase format now for 2 years with my private clients and my 7-day students, and now I'm going to share it with you. Every single one of my clients that have applied the 5-phase format have seen their success rate accelerate dramatically. You see, even if you have the most flimsy of structures in place in your interactions with women, you'll see a difference compared to freestyling it. But this format is exceptionally brilliant, and there's 2 incredible things about it that I love. First of all, when you apply it, it continuously pushes you towards your goal, and simultaneously it pulls your goal towards you. So it creates rapid escalation. And the second reason why I love this format is because you can apply it in a way that is completely congruent with who you are. It involves no lies, because lies are false advertisement, and I don't do that. So I'm going to go through each one of these phases. And by the way, there's 5 phases because I believe there's 5 elements to game, which happen to be 5 phases also. I'm going to go through each one of these phases and I'm going to show you how they work, how they help you transition from one point to another until you get your goal. And of course, during the whole of this section, I'm going to give you a very honest insight into the female mind. So let's go through the 5 phases. Okay, the first one is impact. And by the way, these are in a particular order. The first one is impact. Second one, pattern breaking. Third one, connection. Fourth one, attraction spikes. And fifth, the close. So let's start with the first one, impact. Now, there are 2 types of impact. In fact, you can put game into 2 categories, verbal and non-verbal. Verbal seduction, non-verbal seduction, verbal communication, non-verbal communication, and so forth. So with impact, you also have non-verbal and verbal impact. Impact is extremely important. If you don't make impact, you're not going to seduce her. Because how can you seduce someone that's not present? If someone's not present with you, there's no way that you can put them in that incubator of seduction. Making impact buys you time. Okay, that's something that a lot of us don't have. You go into a crowded nightclub, a crowded bar, and you see a beautiful woman. She has a multitude of distractions around her. You are not in her priority list. You're down there. You can be handsome, you can have the best personality in the world, it doesn't matter. Because right now, she has her friends. She's slightly drunk, or at least she's had 1 drink. And even if she doesn't drink, well, I'm telling you, the loud music's going to do it. There's a lot of things going on around her. You need to become her main priority very, very quickly. You need to buy time in order to add all those fantastic skills and techniques that I know that you just want to unleash onto her. So you have to think of it like this. It's like a camera, okay? Everything around her has to go into soft focus, and you have to have more of a sharp focus on yourself. You have to become her main priority very, very quickly. And that's why a lot of people, they use funny opening lines and they use really interesting questions. But let's go on to that in a minute and let's focus on the non-verbal impact you can make. This is called metagame. And a man with premiership level metagame knows that by tweaking his body language, by altering his eye contact, by changing his general rhythm and pace, he can create presence. And that's something that money can't buy. Think about it. All those times you've been in a bar or a club or a party, or even just, been walking in the street, and somebody passes you, man or woman, and they're not particularly the best looking, they're not wearing particularly the best clothes, the most fashionable clothes, but there's something about them, and your eyes are drawn to them. They've got that X factor. You know who I always use as an example of this? Scarface. If you've ever seen that movie, which is a classic, you notice that the two main characters is Al Pacino, who's about 5'4". He's quite attractive, but he's not known for being particularly aesthetically handsome. And it's his friend, is the other character, and his friend is like 6'2". He looks like some sort of a Greek god, muscular, handsome. I think he's got light eyes and dark hair. He looks like a Gucci model. And although he's aesthetically better looking, your eyes are always on Al Pacino. You're always focused on Tony Montana because his energy, it's that presence that he has when he walks on the screen. Even when he doesn't say anything, just his eyes, the intensity of his eyes. This is what I mean when I say presence. And some people do just have it. They're born with it. But you know something? You can actually copy and paste that feeling. You can actually, and this is what I've done, is I've analysed what it is that these people do that makes everybody look at them. What is this X factor quality? So you can actually replicate it. And although it's not natural and it's contrived, doesn't matter. You will still have that same effect on people. So a lot of my clients, when I teach them how to walk into a bar, as opposed to how most guys walk into a bar. Example, I tell them to walk into the bar first of all and stand in the middle of the room, because this shows that you're comfortable with your environment. I tell them to pick up their phone, okay? I always say this is their best friend, okay? It's their worst enemy also, because girls are always looking at phones and that's usually their priority, but it can also be your best friend. And I say to them that they should be looking at their phone when they're in the actual club, as if they're looking for someone. But this is interesting, they're standing in the middle of the room with the phone and they're looking around. And it's a great opportunity to have a very quick moment of eye contact with the women in the room. And I don't mean stare at them, because remember, you have to look like you're looking for somebody. But it just gives that moment of chemistry, or a chemistry sensation at least. And then you look back at your phone, realize that your friend's not there, your imaginary friend, and you go to the bar. But what you have displayed there is that you're very comfortable in your environment. You're very comfortable for everyone to look at you. You're in no particular rush. Look at what most guys do. Look at what you do. You probably rush through. You probably don't even go through like the main center part. You probably go around the sides. And then think about when you're at the bar and you've got your hands in your pocket and you're playing with your change and you're just fumbling around and you're waiting for that drink. And you're not making any eye contact with anybody. Think about the way you're sitting. Think about your posture. This is all making a very negative impact. In fact, it's making no impact at all because you're just doing the same as what everyone else is doing. So with my clients, I tell them to slow everything down, stand in the middle of the room and make it seem like they own the club. And you know what happens? The ones that are really, really good at this, a lot of people, especially women, will say to them during the conversation when they are interacting together, I thought you were the manager, or I thought you were the owner of the club. This happens a lot, and sometimes they even get thought of as celebrities. Are you famous? Are you in a soap opera or something? And of course these guys aren't, But what they're doing is they're conveying confidence, they're conveying the fact that they're very comfortable in their environment, they're conveying the fact that they are happy for everyone to look at them. Because I'm not asking you to stand into the middle of a room and just do something really crazy and look like a weirdo. Now, a lot of pickup artists do teach students that. I would only say do that if it was for an exercise, like to get you out of your comfort zone. But if you're just going to go out tonight or tomorrow, be very aware of how you're walking into the room. And if you follow these tips I've given you, you'll see that that will make immediate impact. Now, another thing about men with really great metagame is that they understand that this is the trailer to their movie, the trailer to their personality. The other day, I went to see a really bad film, and the reason why I went and spent my hard-earned money and gave up my precious time off, which I don't have a lot of, to watch this terrible movie was because of the incredible trailer. The trailer took all the best parts and it completely, it sold it to me. And I didn't actually get angry. I thought it was brilliant. I said, if a trailer can make people flock to the cinemas, it's doing something right. I mean, you feel like you've been a bit shortchanged when you're there because it wasn't consistent, which we'll talk about in a minute about being consistent. But that's the power that a trailer can have. So you have to think, I am the trailer right now. What are people seeing? Are people saying, that's a movie I don't want to invest in, or that's a movie I want to go and see? So another point is that once you have created that presence when you've walked in the room, once you have delivered your trailer, you'll find that speaking to women is so much easier because they've already seen you come in. They've already been watching you. They already have made quick, snap decisions about who you are and how important you are. And that's something Vio is going to be talking about a lot later, how important you are in the hierarchy. Even though there isn't really a hierarchy, even though you might be at the very bottom if there was one, what you're conveying is something completely different. And that's all she has to go on. That's all she has right now. So don't waste that. So you'll find that if you do get it right, when you speak to her, she's much more open. You've already made that kind of impact. And that is the power of non-verbal impact. Now we're going to speak about verbal impact. When you've made non-verbal impact, you have to remain committed. You have to remain consistent. There's no point in going into the room like James Bond. I mean, let's just take James Bond for a second. Even if James Bond walked in there with his whole backstory, I mean, 007 literally walks in and it's all the girls' favourite, Pierce Brosnan, by the way, guys, just to let you know it is Pierce Brosnan. I know you all like Sean Connery, but the women like Pierce Brosnan. Okay, he's just got it absolutely right. He's pretty boy and handsome at the same time. So he walks in. Sorry, glides in. He doesn't walk, James Bond, he glides in. He goes up to a girl. Her tongue is hanging out. And then he says to her, so, can I get you a drink? Do you come here often? The spell is broken. Game over. Even someone like 007. So you can't think, well, I've done everything Kezia said. People are looking at me. I've walked in like 007. And now I'm just going to go back to some like cheesy line, or I'm going to come across really needy. So in order to make impact, to give your impact scope, you need to remain consistent with the impact that you made non-verbally. This is where we transition to the next phase, which is pattern breaking. I could write 10 volumes about pattern breaking. For me, pattern breaking is everything. I think that the whole of game revolves around pattern breaking. I think success revolves around pattern breaking. I'm that obsessed with pattern breaking. But let's just keep it in context here. If you go and say something to her predictable, then how is that going to make impact? You've got about 3 seconds. Okay, if you've warmed her up already and you have made non-verbal impact, you will find that you will be given a little bit more time than the guy who's already messed up his trailer. But let's just concentrate, because this is a very, very fragile stage, okay? This is extremely fragile. So even if you have a good opener, okay, it can still go wrong. By the way, there's 3 main sticking points that my clients have, and one of them is running out of things to say, which is why my 10-hook lead system DVD set has sold, I think now it's about 80,000 to 90,000 copies. It's in huge, huge demand, that DVD set, more than any of the others. Because men always say that they run out of things to say, that they don't know where to take the conversation, they meet dead ends, it fizzles out. They use all sorts of terms to explain why they just can't seem to keep the girl's attention. But actually, it all goes down to pattern breaking. So you've got this very, very fragile stage, and let's face it, it's like a commercial. You've got about 30 seconds. Now, a lot of pickup artists will say, well, say something crazy to her. Okay, if it's congruent with your personality, if you're a bit of a crazy person, you're a little bit out there, then that's absolutely fine. And a lot of men can get away with that. But if you're quite a conservative person, introverted, think about how weird it will sound, how incongruent it will sound if you go up to her and say, hey, I've just got 2 small puppies, which is a lie. I want to give them names like a band from the 80s or something like this. And there's lots of cheesy pickup lines out there. You have to think, is it going to sit well? Is it going to sit well with me? Because how do I follow up from there? You can always follow up, by the way, with something like that by saying, isn't that the cheesiest pickup line? My name is. You can always do that. But from my name is, or from whatever cheesy pickup line you have, and even if you shake hands and you introduce yourself, it still has to go somewhere, the conversation. You can't just say, well, I broke the ice, I've introduced myself, she smiled, now I can go back to asking her boring questions. This is why pattern breaking is so important in this part. I mean, it's important all the way throughout the interaction, but this part, this fragile early stages of the interaction, it's vital that you apply pattern breaking. Women go into autopilot mode. Okay, when you're talking to them, they go into autopilot mode. You go into autopilot mode. We all do. The moment we're at a function and someone asks what we do, a part of us wants to die. Okay, we slowly slip into a coma. And the reason is because we can predict everything that the person is going to ask us. We can predict accurately their reaction. We have the same experience when we talk about where we're from. And actually, I find myself lying now just so I don't fall into a coma too early on in the night. So this is the point. This is what's going on with the girl when you go up to her and you say, what do you do? Where are you from? She's already slipping into autopilot mode, which means that you're not making impact on her, which means you can't go to the third phase, which is connection. So you're going to be in this very, very grey area. So you've done your funny opening line, or you can scrap that and go in there with a fairly boring question, okay? Let her go into autopilot mode for like a second and then come back with a response to her answer that she didn't expect. That is very subtle pattern breaking. So again, we've gone from making a strong non-verbal impact. Then you've got a choice. You can go in with a funny opener, introduce yourself, then ask her a boring question or a standard question, as a lot of people call it, then come back with something original. Or you can just have your body language, when you're going up to her, your body language expressing confidence, making that impact, continue to make that impact, go in with something pretty standard, and then again, replying with something which completely breaks patterns. You want to create a hairline shift in her perception of you very quickly. So I'm going to give you some pattern breakers now, and I have millions of them. And I want you, next time that you find yourself in that situation with a girl, asking her where she's from or what she does, to use one of these responses. So, where are you from? Now, usually a man will respond to where a girl's from with, in fact, women and men do this. I should just say people. They'll say, oh, I've been there, or I haven't been there. I've been there, I haven't been there. You've got another two, what's it like? And the other one, how come you're here? And in my 10-hook lead system, I say, well, if you have a country, whatever it is, even if you're not interested in going there, even if you have no desire to go there, it doesn't matter, it's a high caliber hook. We can have lots of fun with that. So, where are you from? You can just respond with, I've never been there. Tell me what makes it the most amazing place in the world. Women absolutely love this response. It sounds cheesy on camera, okay? You're probably sitting at home going, I don't think I can do that. But if you do it, watch her face. Watch how she looks away for a second. She's not looking away because she doesn't like the response, or she doesn't like you, or you said anything offensive. She's looking away here because she has to think about it. Because people don't ask her that. She has to think of a suitable answer. You have impressed her on a very, very subtle level. It's not whistles and bells. You're not showing off. You're showing, I'm curious. I'm listening to you. I'd like to know more about you. You're doing this just by pattern breaking. So tell me something that makes your country so amazing. Or you could say, I've never been there. Tell me something that nobody knows. You could say, if you really want to be cheeky, you know, all my friends who've been there say it's just awful. They've told me not to go. And that's like a little challenge, because you're not saying that you said it, you're saying someone else said it. So little playful, a lot of people call this like playful banter. A lot of people call it just interesting conversation material. In fact, it's just all pattern breaking. That's all it is. What do you do for a living? Big, big one. Okay, what do you do for a living? She tells you. Most people will respond with, how long have you been doing it for? Do you like it? Where are you based, or where do you work? They'll say something like, how did you get into that? So a vague question is going to get a vague response, and it's going to immediately put her into autopilot mode. You have to think, what is everybody else responding with? What does people respond with me? What would I like people to respond to me with? So I have a couple of friends who are doctors and dentists, and I always see their face when we go to a party and someone says, what do they do? And they go, I'm a doctor. And the first thing is, oh, I've got a rash on my back, or my wrist hurts, my knee hurts. Will you have a look at it? And I can just see their face like, oh God, why do people just expect me to just like be, on call and just go back into work mode? So people are very, very stupid when it comes to conversation skills. What they do is they just go in on their own head. They don't actually think, how can I make this interesting? Oh no, if I try and make it interesting, it means I might sound weird. No, pattern breaking, subtle pattern breaking can make all the difference. So what do you do for a living? Let's replace all those old, antiquated responses. Keep those for people that you don't want to have a connection with, okay? It's called polite chit-chat, which is actually polite detachment, by the way. What do you do for a living? Respond with either, what do you need in order to be amazing at what you do? Oh, they like that one. In fact, men and women love that one. Is that something that you want to do since you were 15? And I actually always pick 15 years old, because if you say, what did you want to do when you were a child? It can open up the possibility to a very precocious answer. She might say, I wanted to be a fairy. And you're like, okay, we're having a really, really ridiculous conversation now. Thank you, Kezia. If you say 15, the first thing she'll say is, why 15? They always do, why 15? And you say, because I read somewhere that women know what they want to do at 15 and men know what they want to do at 55. Always gets a laugh. And what happens then is she has to start thinking back to 15. It's a specific point in her life. It's not nebula. It's not thinking back when she was 4, 10, 8. She's thinking back to 15. Now you're already changing the dynamics of the interaction already. it's less one-dimensional. You'll bring up the past. And I love putting the past, present and future into my interactions. It makes the conversation more meaty and I start to draw in the person. And this is something that you can do too. How about, where do you see yourself in a couple of years' time? Now, I wouldn't use that for women who are like more artistic, or maybe they've just got a sort of 9 to 5 job that they're not very passionate about. I would save these kind of questions for career women like me. I mean, they're very, very open about it. They've usually got some sort of a structure and a goal plan. So that's fine for them. So you can talk about the future with those guys. Another response that you can use is, does your job put a smile on your face every morning? A lot of people actually open up to this because they have to think about it, and they'll say to you something like, actually, not anymore, or yes, recently, because. So you're opening up the gates. You are allowing them to express themselves. You are letting them flood the interaction with a lot of material without even them realizing it. But this still goes back onto pattern breaking. I met a producer. He was a French producer a few years ago, and I asked him, what's the most important part of a film? And I expected him to say the actors or the acting, and he said it's the script. He said you can have the best actors and actresses, the best music, and you can have the best cinematography, and although that will make a very beautiful film, he said it won't change people's lives, it won't grip them, because script is everything, and the art of a good script is pattern breaking. So when you go and watch a film, you can watch a film about, let's say, a couple being in love, which is very, very common, a romance, and the story could be, girl meets boy, girl falls in love with boy, boy cheats on girl, but in the end they make up and live happily ever after. Very, very standard story, very mainstream. But if that script is good, if that script has pattern breakers in it, it can make us see a very, very standard story in a whole different light. It can inspire us, it can touch us. That's what a script does. I remember I saw the film Love Story, and Love Story, I mean, even the name is so cheesy, and it is about a rich, preppy schoolboy who meets a sort of working class Italian girl, and she ends up dying, and it's like, sounds a bit sad, but actually the script is phenomenal. And I always say to people, if you want to see a script with so many twists, the film doesn't have that many twists, it is the script that has the twist, that is absolutely flooded with pattern breakers. So a lot of people always ask me, recommend me films, recommend me books. I actually don't usually do that. And Love Story sounds cheesy, but if you just watch it for the pattern breakers between the two main characters, it really does inspire you to become a conversationalist. But like I said, it can really touch you, a very good script, and the art of a good script is pattern breaking. Now here's an interesting story. A lot of people ask me, why am I so obsessed with pattern breakers? Where did this all come from? I learned it from a table dancer. There you go, that's the truth. I used to take clients to table dancing clubs, strip clubs, because it was a fantastic place to work on their metagame, because they're very, very intimidating places. You've got huge doormen, and they're sort of like patrolling. They're always patrolling the dance floor, and they're looking at you like, you're a criminal just because you've walked into this place. And you've got all these absolutely stunning women, like, ready to leap on you. And you've got like a pair of breasts over here. And then you've got some woman upside down on a pole here. It's very, very, very intimidating for a lot of men who maybe, come from very small towns. So the first thing I do is, if I can see that they need to like just crack this part, that they just need to get through the metagame part and they need to conquer that, I take them to a strip club. And I'm like, okay, you have to own this place. It's a fantastic exercise. And so I used to go there quite a bit with them. And, obviously I'd end up getting to know some of the girls. And what I found very interesting is that a lot of the beautiful girls there, and I'm talking like some real beauties, they would used to put the money in their garter belt of how much they made in the evening. They couldn't actually conceal it at all. Weren't allowed to have purses. And they never seemed to have as much money as this one particular girl who was about 5'2", not very hot. I mean, she wasn't hideous, but I would say that she was very, very plain. Okay, it wasn't offensive, ugly. It was very, very plain. And I was fascinated with how she had like a wad of cash that thick in her garter belt. And then you had this line of like stunning, tall Icelandic blondes with barely any money. And I first of all asked those girls, like, what is it that she does? And they're like, we don't know, we don't like her. That was already okay. Now I am interested to find out what this girl's doing. So I said to her, okay, I'm with a client now. I've told him not to have any dances, okay? Not to spend a single penny on any girl that comes up to him. And believe me, the most beautiful girls have tried. And I said to her, if you manage to get like $1 out of him, anything, okay, I will pay for you to sit here and explain to me how you did it. She said, okay, fine, challenge accepted. She sat down with him. Within 10 minutes, he said to me, I really want to buy her a bottle of champagne. I was like, please don't, because I have to buy it, that means. The thing is, she managed to get him to fall in love with her. Okay, this guy, my client, who was under strict orders from me not to spend any money and had already been tempted by the most beautiful women he'd ever seen, suddenly was under the spell of this 5'2", average, below average looking girl. So I said to her, okay, I'm going to pay you for your time, okay? How much is it? And she's like, $400. I was like, oh my God, okay, fine. It's worth it because I want to know what it is that you do. And she explained to me it was pattern breaking. I mean, she didn't use this terminology. She said something like, I surprised them. And she never ever danced, by the way. She never ever danced for them. She would just use her conversation skills and banter and her metagame. She had great metagame, great energy. And she could switch it on at the beginning of the night and switch it off before she got home, because actually she had a kid and she had like a boyfriend. It was very, very funny. And what she did is she went up to another guy. I saw her do this because I wanted to see what it was that she was doing. And it was this American guy that had had so many women throwing themselves at him. Beautiful women. He'd had 3 dances with 3 of the women, and then he became just like kind of blasé about it. Okay, his novelty worn off very, very quickly. And she sat down next to him, and he was totally disinterested. He was just like, I just want to have a drink with my friend. And then she goes, where are you from? And I'd already heard the other girl saying to him, where are you from? And he said, I'm from Los Angeles. And then they turned around and be like, oh, I would love to go to Los Angeles, or I love Los Angeles. And you could see like he was just so bored of it by then. And she turned around and said to him, are you a psychopath or a psychologist? And he went, what the fuck did you say? And she goes, you heard me. And she had this big smile on her face. And he's like, I don't understand. So she's already pattern breaking. I saw that. Already, she had become like, you know, there's breasts, everything around him. And this precocious girl had got his attention. And she said, there's 2 types of people in LA in my experience. Psychopaths or psychologists, or a mixture of both. And he's like, sit down. And they ended up having a really great conversation. And then furthermore, he ended up spending £2,000 on her for an hour and a half of her time. And that's all she was doing. She was pattern breaking. And what it does is it keeps you on your toes, It inspires you. It makes you feel good. I mean, it's brilliant when someone can just ask you a question that no one else has asked you. You can see it in their face. You can see how happy they are. And it's not like jumping for joy in the air happy. It's just like, wow, this is different. And I want you to think about, back to that film that you really love. Think about the scenes where you didn't expect them to say something. Think about how it made you feel. Think about how it spoke to you, what thoughts came into your head, how it provoked you, how it inspired you. And you can do all that with pattern breaking, which now leads us perfectly to the third phase, connection. Now, once you've broken patterns, you've got her full attention, then you'll find it much easier to make a connection with the girl. You see, if you've just got impact there, well, you might have her attention to a certain extent, but there's not that familiarity. She hasn't emotionally invested in you and intellectually invested in you yet. That's what pattern breaking does. This is what we call the comfort stage, essentially. You've built some sort of comfort. She's now invested time in you. You've become her main priority. Therefore, connection follows suit. It's much, much easier for you to connect. It's a natural progression because each phase is a natural progression. So there you are having this great conversation. She's revealing a lot about herself now because that's what pattern breaking does. It helps us to reveal a lot about each other. A lot of people say to me, Kezia, how come I feel like I can tell you anything? Like, they just meet me for 5 minutes, and this is not clients, it's just people I meet in parties, and they say, you know, I just revealed so much about myself. Well, it's not because I look particularly angelic, and it's not because I'm a great listener. I certainly don't have that call this number face. So what is it that I do? Well, after pattern breaking, I like to sometimes reveal a little flaw or two about me in a totally unapologetic way. So I give them a chance to see a more sensitive side to me. I come across much more multi-dimensional because when people meet me at first, I can be quite hard-hitting, quite straight-talking, quite unfriendly in many ways. But then when I start opening up to them, I start showing them flaws in my life, weaknesses, in an unapologetic tone. They start doing the same thing. It starts becoming a competition, in fact. Everyone's seeing who's got more flaws. It sounds really warped, but it does happen. Now, I'm just jumping a little bit here because let's go back to connection and why it's so important and how to achieve it. Connection will build you trust. It builds you trust and a moment of closeness. And when that's in position, you can start sexually escalating a lot more easily. Now, a lot of people mistake connection with surface connection, having interests in common. We both like dogs, let's date. We've both been to Marbella, let's date. We both like shopping, let's date. Think about it, if you look at online dating, and I've created an online dating ebook which has sold thousands and thousands of copies, so I know online dating is extremely popular. However, I always advise my clients, be careful to who you choose on online dating, because what happens is they match you up, or you start going for people who have shared interests, have shared political views, like horse riding, like to travel. And some of these can be very, very specific. I've noticed that online dating gets more and more specific, but unfortunately it's all very, very surface interests. And what happens is most people, when they go on a date, when they've met someone from online, they say it's a disaster. But how come? You had everything in common. You had every detail in common. You shared so many interests, hobbies. How can you not connect? Because surface connections are meaningless. Emotional, deep connections, now that is the stuff that dreams are made of. I had a client who was a very, very wealthy, successful banker from Wall Street. And he came to the 7-day program and he told me that he liked pretty dumb women. You know, he was totally unapologetic about it. I didn't judge. I mean, he had a very, very intelligent wife for many years who had her own law firm. He's like, I'm done with it. I just want a bimbo. So, okay, fine. Let's go find you a bimbo. There's loads of them. The problem is, I got to the point where I said to him, look, you're going to have to start making deep connection with these girls. And he said, well, how can I make deep connection with a girl who works in a coffee shop, has no career plan, has no interest in money, probably studying art or something, just, happy to live hand to mouth. How can I connect with this person? Right, stop, I said to him. Stop right there. what are you passionate about? And he goes, I'm passionate about making money. I'm passionate about being successful, becoming more and more successful. I said, good. What is she passionate about? And he goes, probably, you know, art or, you know, creative writing or something like that is not going to get her anywhere. Good. You're both passionate about something. That's all I care about. You're not passionate. She's not interested in money. You're very passionate about money. You're very passionate about your ego. You're very passionate about what other people think about you. Brilliant. She's passionate about art. She knows it's going to get her nowhere. She knows that maybe she's not very good at it, but it's her passion. That's all I want you two to connect on. And it just, by me telling him that, made him see connection in a whole new light, because he was so busy trying to find things that he could connect on with people who were totally different to him on the surface. We all have fears. We all have dreams. We have dreams. Okay? I'm a very ambitious person, but most of my friends are not ambitious. Most of them are like, you know, theatre actresses and actors. They're very artistic, but I love the fact that they're passionate. I love the fact that they would never drive my 4x4 luxury car because they think it reeks. It reeks ego. But I love that. I love the fact that they have an opinion like that, because I'm opinionated also, so we can connect. I love the fact they've got a sense of humour. I have a sense of humour. We can make fun of each other. We can wind each other up and know that it's just banter. It's a sign of affection. This is what I mean when I say connection. Stop trying to have something in common with her. Having something in common with her might help the conversation flow at awkward moments. But what you need to do is talk about what she's passionate about. Find out why she feels the way she does. So she's interested in photography. You have no interest in it. What are you going to say? Let's change the subject. Why do you do that? How much money are you making from it? No, find out where the passion comes from. Find out how it makes her feel. And when she's in that zone, you can talk about your passion. So it's quite interesting. If you are passionate about something that she can't get her head around, if she starts talking about her passion, she's on that emotional wavelength, she's in that zone, she'll be much more open to hear what you're passionate about. She won't be judgmental about it, because you've already actually increased the buying temperature, you've increased the energy, she's feeling positive now. So you'll find that what you say next, she's going to welcome a lot more, with a lot more passion also, regardless of what your passion or beliefs are. By the way, I have a DVD set called The Deep Connection, so you can check that out if you want to master the art of deep connection. But essentially, you want to connect on a much more robust level rather than just surface. Don't get so caught up in the surface, because it can work against you. Don't start thinking we've got nothing in common, we've never been to these same countries, she's from a country I have no interest in, she's doing a job that I don't even know what it is. Because if you have that attitude, you're immediately making it more difficult for yourself, you're becoming more stressed out, and then you'll start suffering from something called decision-making paralysis. But that's a whole different DVD for another day. So what happens when you actually make this deeper connection? How can you really benefit from it, apart from having a really great conversation? Well, the first thing is you now have her emotional and intellectual attention, her full focus. Secondly, she respects you now. Why does she respect you? Because she's revealing things about herself that she doesn't reveal to most people. In her head, she can't do it to someone she doesn't respect. So automatically, she has to respect you to actually hand over, to share that kind of information, that private information. Third, trust. Now she trusts you. Closeness. Now, there's a warning here. If you get to this point, you have entered the friend zone. Now, I want to change your perception on the friend zone. A lot of men say, oh my God, I get trapped in the friend zone. Oh my God, I'm heading towards the friend zone. How do I get out of it? The friend zone is a benchmark. If you've got to the friend zone, you have completed A, B, and C. You have created impact, you've broken patterns, and you've made a connection. The problem is not friend zone, it's being friends locked. That's the difference. There's friend zone and friends locked. Friend zone is a benchmark. Okay, I've got to this point, because most guys can't even get to that point. They mess up on phase A. They cannot even make the impact to keep her attention. You're on phase C. You've made connection. You're halfway there. The reason you get friends locked is because you do not apply the other two elements. You do not reach out to the other two phases. So this part, for all of you that get stuck, get friends locked, it's a good thing that you got to the friend zone, but here comes the next phase so that you don't get trapped in that friend zone. The fourth phase, attraction spikes. Adding attraction spikes and sexual tension accelerators will transition you from the friend zone, from that platonic level, to something a little bit more seductive. This is the sexual escalation phase. So again, back to the verbal and non-verbal aspects of this particular phase. You have, of course, verbal attraction spikes, giving her a compliment. Now, when you give compliments, you've got to keep on with that pattern-breaking pattern. I was going to say that, pattern-breaking pattern. Wow, that's new territory. But you have to keep on with that flow, okay? Pattern-breaking, what she doesn't expect. So rather than saying you have nice hair, nice eyes, nice figure, or good figure, or anything where she didn't really have a say in it. A figure, perhaps, if she's worked hard, if you can see that it's quite sculpted, that she's spent a lot of time in the gym, perhaps that needs a compliment. But if she's just slim or she's curvaceous, that means she hasn't really had to work for it. It's just she's genetically blessed. Same goes for nice eyes, nice hair. Pick something that she's had to work at, such as makeup, her makeup style. How does she do her makeup? Does she do really smoky, heavy eye makeup that you think is really, really sexy? Does she work harder on her lips? Does she do really natural makeup? Even though she's got a lot on, it comes across really natural. Does she have like porno makeup on? Be very, very specific, because this shows that you have a criteria of what you like. You know what turns you on. I explain this a lot more in the Attraction to Seduction DVD set. But also you can use a double-sided compliment, the way that she's styled, her perfume, so something she's had to work at. So that is verbal attraction spikes, and you can find effective compliments anywhere. So let's just put that to one side for now and focus more on the non-verbal. The non-verbal is just by looking at the girl in a slightly different way. So I'm looking at you right now just as a friend, and now, when I've slowed down my voice, I'm actually doing an upside down triangle on where your eyes and your mouth would be. Now this creates a real subtle shift in the energy. It's not enough for her to go, "What are you doing?" But it's enough for her to feel on a subconscious level that something's changing. This, in fact, I like to call the non-verbal attraction spikes sexual tension accelerators. What you're doing in this section is you are making it easier. You're building the pathway to the close. So rather than going from friendship, which a lot of guys do, they go from this friend zone and they just go for the close. The problem with that, the big problem with that, is that you can friend zone close her. So if you're still in that friend zone and then you say, "Let's swap numbers, let's go to the movie," guess what she'll say? "Great, who else is coming?" Right? And you've all been there and you've all had this experience. But if you close her after you've added the attraction spikes, after you have completed the fourth phase, which very quickly becomes the fifth phase, the close will lead on to a date. You won't have closed her in that friend zone. You'd have closed her when something was apparently changing, very, very apparently changing. So if you combine the verbal attraction spikes with the non-verbal, you can really start to sexually escalate things. Take her legs. Men always say to me, where should I compliment? If I am going to make a sexual compliment, so we're moving away now from compliments about style and perfume and hair. What if I want to give her a sexual compliment? I say, you can talk about breasts. You can talk about her ass. But you have to have watertight confidence to carry that off. There are some men that can get away with it. I have seen it, I have had it done to me, and a part of you wants to strangle the guy and the other part of you wants more. There's a few guys that can do it. They are extroverts, whether they are naturally extroverted or they learn how to become an extrovert and they've done it well. It's two different things. But they have a very extroverted personality usually. They're very unapologetic. They're very sexually direct. If you are like this, you're probably not watching this DVD. But if you want to go in that direction, then yeah, you can say anything. You can say to her, I'm an alien from outer space and I'm here to impregnate women. You can do anything if you can back it up with this unapologetic nature. But if you want to play it a little bit safe, stick to legs. Legs is quite sexual, but not as much as ass and breasts. So just by suddenly breaking patterns, breaking the flow, and looking at her legs like that, not discreetly, just openly looking at her legs and saying, your legs are fucking hot, or your legs are really sexy, by the way. Anyway, you were saying, that could create a brilliant, a very, very positive shift in the interaction, because this is where the verbal and non-verbal interacts with each other. Okay, it's where they dance with each other. Someone who doesn't have the non-verbal, perfected the art of the non-verbal in this situation, they will say, oh, your legs are so hot. And they smile, and then the girl's like, fuck you. Or like, what's your problem? Or you're a creep. So it's the art of timing. That's very much non-verbal. It's the art of timing. It's the art of going back to something completely platonic. You're push-pull, push-pull. You're breaking patterns. You're doing things that are unexpected. Women find that very sexy. They find it very attractive, this unpredictable man. I was on a date with a guy once, and he was Mr. Nice Guy, I thought. And we were having dinner, and I was thinking of a way to say to him, well, thank you very much for dinner, but I think we should just be friends. And he suddenly leaned over the table and said to me, I really want to fuck you on all fours. I was like, oh my God. But before I could react, he said to me, can you pass me the wine, please? So what it did is it told me, okay, this guy is very sexually confident. This is no longer friend zone. This is moving in a direction very, very quickly, and I'm on this train and I love it. So I want you to think of it like that. The verbal and the non-verbal in the attraction spike section has to be entwined. Otherwise it won't work so well. In fact, it won't work at all. You can't give a sexual compliment. You can't give a compliment about your legs and then be really needy with it, or expect something back, or expect it to smile, or to say something back to you, give you a compliment back. It has to be very much, yep, I think your legs are fucking hot. Please pass me the wine, whatever it is. Or you were saying, it gives that moment of, wow, what was that? A sexual tension accelerator. So once you've done a couple of these, and you can go quite far with them, or you can actually, if you're more introverted, a little bit more quiet, if you're not quite on that level where you can go and say things that are really quite risque I should say, quite powerful, then you can still experiment and you can just start using compliments. Be comfortable with using compliments, by the way, okay? Stop giving compliments like a needy little boy. Oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, you're so sexy. Like it's, oh, I better change the subject now. It's got to be very, you're this, a statement, an unapologetic statement. This is what I think of you. Your legs are fucking sexy. You got a banging body. Look at my face. It is so straight. It is so calm. It's not like that. You see, this is needy. Can I have a pay rise, sir? Can I have some more? Yeah? You're not Oliver Twist. You are a man and you are actually declaring a fact. That's what you're doing. You have fucking hot legs. You are turning me on. You're going to get better at this, by the way, okay? You're going to start pushing it more and more each time that you start getting onto this phase, and you can have a lot of fun with it. And you can also suss out which kind of girl you're talking with. So a lot of these confident women, you start using these on them, and they start getting a little bit more shy, a little bit more quiet, and you actually can see what role they like to play in bed from that. So it gives you kind of a clear indicator of where the woman is sexually, because a lot of them come across as quite fiery alpha women, but they can be lambs in the bed, and vice versa, by the way. And you'll find that through this phase. It's a very fun phase. It's one of my favorites, and it will stop you getting friends locked. It leads us now perfectly to the final phase, which is, of course, the close. And now we're on the fifth and final phase of the format, the close. So far, you've made impact on a verbal and non-verbal level. So you've become her main focus, her priority. Well done. You've managed to break patterns. So now she finds you interesting, provoking. You've grabbed her full, entire attention. Then you've managed to make connection. You've made a deeper connection with her that most men can't achieve. So now she trusts you. She feels close to you. It's borderlining now being stuck in the friend zone, but you've managed to salvage that by adding attraction spikes, by increasing her buying temperature, by letting her know what your intention is, by turning her on. You've paved the way to this moment, the close. I love to flood my closing techniques with NLP. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. And part of what NLP does is it allows you to reframe a sentence. It allows you to reframe what you're saying in order to create the desired effect. And also, I love anchoring. Anchoring is brilliant. So when you take a significant word that conjures up an emotion or a memory, obviously a positive one, so that you can emotionally influence the person. Quick example of that, I had a friend, she was absolutely terrified of rats, and she went to one of the top psychiatrists in Harley Street, and he specializes in phobias, and the first thing he told her to do was to start calling rats mice. And that's pure anchoring, because rats, terrible connotations to them. We think of the Black Plague, we think of filth, we think of poverty, and with mice we think of Mickey Mouse, we think of nice, kind of pleasant, cute little sort of squirrel-like creatures. So even if we held like a white lab rat, which is completely clean, cleaner than our dogs that we adore and love, we're still going to be a bit squeamish, some of us, just because it's a rat. Say it's a mouse and we won't feel the same way. So that's a great example of anchoring. And my friend said that as soon as she started calling them mice, it just brought down the level of fear, the level of panic when she was even thinking about them. So you can obviously anchor in a more positive way also. And I'll be showing you some techniques in this section of how you can use positive anchoring to get what you want. So let's start off with reframing though. How many times have you caught yourself saying to a girl, can I have your number? Or I would like to take you on a date. I would like to take you out. Can I want, I would like, means that you're coming from a needy place. It means that you are without. Can I? It's asking for permission. Can I have permission to exist? By saying simply, we should swap numbers, it's much more mutual. One is saying, I'm needy, I'm coming from a needy place. The other is almost like you've agreed upon it. We should. Should is much more powerful than can I. We should swap numbers. We should trade. Trade's a good one. That's great anchoring right there. Trade. When we hear the word trade, we think it's fair. Fair trade. Countries trading with each other. Poor and rich countries trading. It sounds fair. We should trade numbers. We should swap numbers. We should. That's what I mean by reframing. Okay, so you're essentially asking for the same thing, but the way you're putting it is going to have more desired effect. Let's focus a little bit more on anchoring here. So anchoring ideas into her head, making suggestions to her. I always say to my clients, before you close her, make sure you tell her how you admire the fact she's so open-minded. Completely non-sexually. So it's not like, oh, I love the fact you're so open-minded to kinky sex or fetish sex. No. It's got to be entirely separate from anything sexual. You know what I like about you? The fact that you're so open-minded. You know what I like about you? You follow your heart. Most people follow their head and they lose something, don't you think? No, everyone loves to think that they follow their heart, that they're this passionate, instinctual person. Everyone wants to be that cool, or I should say in this case, fiery person. They don't want to be told they're methodical. They don't want to be told that they overthink things, they overanalyze things. They want to be that person who's a free spirit, who thinks of their heart. So that's what you say. You say, I like the fact, okay, that's important. I like the fact that unlike other people, you follow your heart. It's so rare these days to see that. You dance to your own tune. You follow the beats of your own drum. These are very, very powerful suggestions that you're putting in her mind. You're saying to her she's independent. I like the fact you're independent. I can see you're someone that does their own thing. You don't follow the sheep. You don't follow the crowd. You make your own decisions. That's what I like about you. You're separating her from the lambs going to the slaughter. You're saying to her, I like the fact you're open-minded, unlike, you're creating this incubator now, unlike these other people. I like the fact you're passionate, you go with your heart. I like the fact that you know exactly what you want and you go for it. Now she, on some level, is going to be absorbing all this. And when it comes to getting her back to your house or to her apartment, she's going to remember all these things that you said. Because the biggest thing that a woman is worried about, if she's attracted to a man, if she's sexually turned on, and she says no to him, it's because of what society says, what her friends say. She's had that indoctrinated into her head from a very young girl. So she'll find all these reasons to not sleep with you. And they will seem really real in her head. But hold on, she's someone who follows her passion, her heart. She's instinctual. She goes with this, not this. She doesn't follow what those other people say. She's not interested in what the lambs to the slaughter are thinking as they go into the abattoir. She wants to have fun. She's a fun-loving girl, you can say that. You're really open-minded, you're fun-loving. Anything that you know will encourage her to say yes to you later on. Now this isn't manipulation. Manipulation is making someone think they're attracted to you. If you've done everything I say, she will be attracted to you. The only thing that's blocking you sleeping with her is all the crap that she's been fed for so long by her friends. She's living through their eyes, through their reality. She needs to be living in her reality. And that's all you're encouraging her to do, essentially. Wait, hold on. Oh, there was something else I need to add to that. Something else that you can do is called future projections. You can apply future projections as part of the close. So women, when they go out, when they go on a night out, they're not essentially looking for sex, one night stands. Some are, but most aren't. It's actually when they do have a one night stand, it's a huge surprise for them. Not because they can't get a one night stand, it's just because they won't allow themselves to have a one night stand. Because constantly they're thinking to themselves, I need to be appreciated by him. I want to have a follow-up date. So what they do usually when they go out is they have this resistance, this wall of resistance, not because they're not attracted to guys or not because they're not horny or they don't want sex, but it's because they want to guarantee that she is going to see him again at some point and not feel used. Now, a way to overcome this is by using future projections, and it's a certain way of using future projections, because a lot of people teach future projections out there and they're really, really cheesy. Like a lot of them will say, oh, I can see me and you walking down a country lane sharing an ice cream. And if the girl has half a brain, she'll be cynical to that. She'll react in a cynical way and think, oh gosh, this is really cheesy. So you've got to make it quite playful. I always like to add a bit of a challenge, some humor, again, pattern breakers when I use future projections. So by saying to her something on the lines of, I can see me and you going to the cinema and you really being a head case. You're going to want to sit in the back and like take advantage of me, and I'm going to want to sit in the front and actually watch the movie. So what you're doing is you're provoking her, you're being playful, you're challenging her. So you're doing two things. On one level, you're saying we are going to see each other again, but you're not making it so sweet and sticky sweet that it's almost like she's suspicious of it. You've already placed the idea, we will see each other again. In fact, you've mentioned the cinema. You've mentioned going to the movies as being particular. But then you've said to her, but we're not going to get on. We're going to have a massive fight. You can actually say, which is one I love, you know, me and you, we're either going to be like so passionate about each other, like we're going to be like, you know, the most important loves of each other's lives, or we're going to be sworn enemies. So you give these two extremes also, because that's quite playful, but it does provoke her imagination. It's very passionate what you're saying. So by challenging the girl, you also take pressure off her. I can see me and you really getting on. I can see us going to this lovely restaurant. It's too much pressure. She's like, okay, now I have to kind of impress this person. Now you know, what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail at this? So you are eliminating that pressure. You're taking it off her. But the great thing here is that you're saying to her, it will happen, but it might not happen the way you think it's going to happen. I love that. It gives flexibility, it gives movement, and it creates even more trust in somebody that's trying to force feed her an idea. So this is the best way to close a woman, by adding as much NLP techniques as possible, as early on as possible. But you have to remember, you need to go in for that close. You can leave it at attraction spikes, you can leave it at that phase, and maybe she'll rip your clothes off, but maybe she won't. See, I had a few clients recently and they didn't want to get off that attraction phase. They were having too much fun with it. And I'm like, no, you have to close now. The closing part can be just as fun. But I think that they wanted the idea of that the woman was attracted to them, and they didn't want her to actually suddenly say, no, I don't want to take it any further than this. And then they'd have to face rejection. But they're over that now, because they actually started using my closing techniques. And yes, they got success nearly all the time with that. So I want to conclude the 5-phase format. What is this 5-phase format? It's a structure, it's the bedrock to your interaction. We know all this. It's a commercial. You have between 10 seconds and 3 minutes to impress the woman. 10 seconds to 3 minutes. This is your advertisement. It's the commercial, it's the marketing, that's everything. You are the product. You are ready to go. You have no idea how to market yourself. And now you have no excuses, because you have the 5-phase format. This is your commercial. This is your commercial. And what will happen is, with each phase, you'll keep on adding more and more minutes to your commercial. You have to impress her very quickly. No one's telling you this. There's no dating coaches out there, and I see their YouTube videos and I've watched their products, and they kind of make it like you've got all the time in the world to impress this woman. This is simply not the case. You're not impressing, she's walking. But you can do it, because if you think about these companies like Pepsi, like Coca-Cola, they're huge budgets, fair enough. They spend so much money on these marketing companies that specialize in creating the perfect commercials to do exactly what I have just shown you. You're watching TV, commercials come on, what are you doing? You're checking your iPhone, you're going to get yourself a drink, you're turning the channel. They need to grab your attention. This is why these companies spend millions and millions on their commercials, because they know that, like the beautiful woman, you have low attention span. They need to connect with you, they need to speak to you, they need to do this in 30 seconds to a minute sometimes. They need to impress you, they need to connect with you, they need to increase your buying temperature, and then they need to close you. Difference is, they've got a minute. You have, with each phase that you go through, extra time. So you have 10 seconds with impact, non-verbal. Then you've got about, if you can manage that, a minute with verbal impact. If you can manage that, then you've got about 5-10 minutes with pattern breakers. Then when you've got past that phase, you've got half an hour to an hour of connection. So you're buying time. So you're in a better place than most of these commercials, because you buy time. You keep buying time with every phase. This 5-phase format, you can apply it to your interactions and see the difference. Now next, you're going to be watching a series of DVDs with myself and Vio, and we're going to give you lots and lots of insights, techniques, skills and methods. And the great thing is, now you have the 5-phase format, you'll be able to apply all those skills and methods in their correct place, because you have the bedrock, you have the blueprint now. It's not all over the place. You're not just, oh, I'll put this here and I'll put that there and see what happens. You now have a solid foundation. You have a timeline. Everything will fall into place a lot more easily now. That's the 5-phase format. Start applying it straight away. Start thinking about the direction you're moving in. And watch the goal come closer to you throughout the process.